now in the afternoon. We have all the afternoon in the pyramids, which is better weather, by the way. In the afternoon, after 3 o'clock, okay, from 2:30 till 6 o'clock, we have it in the pyramids area. Lovely weather, okay, and also the fresh air and the open air of the pyramids, they will refresh you up, and as you are excited to see the pyramids, so you'll not be tired to see the pyramids. This is what I experienced. And then when we finish the pyramids, you'll still have some time, because your flight back to Hurghada will be about around 9:30, so I'm asked to drive you back to the airport at 8 o'clock. So I still have some time. Maybe we can discuss it together, to spend some time maybe at McDonald's, to have some McDonald's? Huh? So I think the kids will say that, let's go directly to McDonald's. To have some meals for the kids before they drive you to the airport. I like that. See? How do you do that? I love it, of course. Okay. So do you during the day? I'll take it to McDonald's. Yeah. Okay, sounds good? Everyone? What is the temperature now? What is the temperature now? And 2 and 6 hours? Don't trust this. If you drive now to the pyramids, 10 hours between the two now. This don't trust that. The weather in the morning after 9 o'clock is the same till 6 o'clock. So from 9 to 6 is the same weather, the hot weather. Okay? And today is not that hot. It's not the same heat. And again, I'm explaining that in the pyramids, it will be open air and also fresh air breeze. But in the Egyptian Museum, in the heat of the afternoon, it will be like boiling. Okay? You will never stand 10 minutes inside the Egyptian Museum in that heat, you understand? It's different in closed area, no air condition, with open area. And the pyramids area is on plateau, high land. So the weather there is much better than in lowlands, you understand? Don't worry, leave it to me. I know exactly what I'm doing. So I've been there doing that for the last 25 years or After 9 o'clock, when the sun shines, the heat is the same. You understand? The heat is the same. After 9 o'clock, 10, 12, 2, 3, the heat is the same. The best time to be around the pyramids, 8 o'clock, if you want to avoid the heat, 8 o'clock in the morning and after 6 in the afternoon. Then no sun, then it's perfect. During the day, I know the shade sides of the pyramid after 3 o'clock, so I will take you to this side of the pyramid to avoid the sun. But in the morning, there is no shade at all in the middle, okay? By the end of the day, you can judge it, okay? Okay, and there is another reason for that. When we start with the pyramids and finish with the Egyptian Museum, if we finish the Egyptian Museum early, we have nothing to do around the Egyptian Museum. It's busy and nothing else to do. If we finish early, we have spare time like 4 or 5 hours. But when we finish with the pyramids, I said we have all the time till 6 o'clock, so it reduces the spare time after the pyramids. And we have the option, after we finish, to sit in one of the coffee shops around the pyramids to have the view and watch the sunset behind the pyramids. We have this option. In the morning, we don't have this option. You understand? Okay. So let's start with the Egyptian Museum. Trust me for that. Let me introduce our capital to you, Cairo. First, you have to know that our country, Egypt, is called Misr in Arabic. Okay?
Misr.
So, yes, we do not call it the way you do in English, Egypt. We call it Misr. And Misr is an Arabic name was given to our country by the Muslims. Muslims conquered Egypt 640 AD. Before the Muslims, we had Christians here. Okay, so Egypt was a Christian country, and then the name of our country during the Christian time was Coptus. Okay, and then when the Muslims conquered Egypt 640 AD, he gave the inhabitants the choice to stay as Christians or to join Islam religion. So those who joined Islam religion, they were called Misr, M-I-S-R, and those who preferred to stay as Christians, they kept the original name of the country. And that's why, if you are familiar, how do we call our Christians? We call them Coptic Christians. Coptus is the original name, so we call them Coptic Christians, and most of them are Orthodox. They are still representing about 15% of the whole population of Egypt, still till now. Okay, so our capital at this time during the Christian time and before that was Alexandria. If any one of you heard about Alexandria city by the coast of the Mediterranean Sea, it was built by Alexander the Great 330 BC. And then Alexandria remained as the capital of Egypt for more than 900 years, from 330 BC till 640 AD. So the Greeks, Romans, and the Christians kept Alexandria as the capital of Egypt. When the Muslims came, they wanted a city in the middle of the country. That's why they moved the capital to what we call Delta. What is Delta? Our river splits into two main branches, Musata and Tomata. Okay. In the middle of those two branches, the top of the Mediterranean Sea on the top, and then in the middle like triangle, upside down triangle, and this is the delta letter in the Greek alphabet. So the Greeks call this part of our country Delta. So when you say Delta, or we call it Lower Egypt. Lower Egypt as our country. Egypt has two halves. The southern part, any one of you has been to the south? Luxor, Aswan, yeah. You did it already?
Yeah.
This trip?
Yeah.
And you're speaking about the heat? It's very hot there. How many of you been to Luxor? The Indian Europe, yeah. How hot was it?
Really hot.
Exactly.
40 degrees.
Very bad. If you ask me, I would never advise you to go. Yeah, always go to Luxor in the winter. Okay, avoid Luxor in the summer. Yes, it's beautiful, the most beautiful city you can ever see, but it's hot, 45-50 degrees. Yes, and that's yesterday? Day before yesterday. No, don't worry, by the pyramids, it's hot, but not like Luxor. And after all, you come to our country for the heat, huh? The sun. It's cold right now in England, yes? So we call the south of Egypt Upper Egypt. Why? Because all the lands by the southern part of Egypt are highlands, like hills and mountains, so we call it Upper Egypt, while the north is low flat land. And by the way, this is the reason why the river Nile flows from the south to the north, and it is the only river all over the world which does that. The only river flows from the south to the north. And it flows very fast, by the way. When we are on the cruise, you'll see that how strong is the current of the river Nile from the south to the north, and that's why we call this part of our country Lower Egypt. So the Muslims changed the capital to be in the middle of Lower Egypt or the Delta, and they call their capital Al-Fustat. Al-Fustat means gardens. Al-Fustat. Then another one, Al-Qata'a, and another one, Al-Askar. But don't bother for the names. In 973 AD, Muslims, one of the very precious families of the Muslims, the family of the daughter of the Muslim Prophet Muhammad, her name is Fatima al-Zahra, okay, came and ruled Egypt. So the general of the army constructed this capital to be like a fancy capital for the royal family. If you look here at your left side, you can see a part of the old Cairo, and this is not a part of the city, it is a cemetery. This is what we call City of the Dead or City of Death. It is really very interesting that it is Muslim graveyard, and it's interesting because it's the only Egyptian tradition to build a house like that above the grave. Although they are Muslims, and according to Islam rules, what we call Sharia, okay, you should bury the person under the ground and build nothing above the grave. It is forbidden to construct anything on the grave, okay? And we don't know why the Egyptians followed this tradition. After they bury the person under the ground, they construct a very normal house. If you enter any of those houses, you can see rooms inside, windows, doors, everything like a normal house. Even some of those has gardens and big fancy mausoleums, as you see the domes. If you saw the building with one dome in the middle, you know it's a mausoleum. But if it has a minaret, you know it's a mosque. Okay? So, as you see, we don't know how or why they kept this tradition, but as they're building houses next to each other with the streets in between, so it looks like a city. That's why we call it City of the Dead, or City of Death. Okay. It occupies a very large area of Cairo, as you see. Okay. Some of those mausoleums, they belong to members of the royal family, and they are very old and precious for Muslims. They were built during the 13th century or the 14th century AD, like the ones with the domes over there. Okay. Behind the cemetery is very, very poor neighborhood of Cairo. You see, Cairo, our capital, is the biggest city all over the Middle East. It has around 30,000 square kilometers. Okay, and we have 25 million living in Cairo. This is the reason of our traffic. We have plus this 5 million that drive every day to Cairo to work in Cairo and they live outside Cairo. Okay. Why the streets are not that busy in the early morning? Today is Saturday. You are lucky actually. Saturday is a weekend. So we don't expect a very bad traffic. But here we still have a part of City of the Death there. And this fortress at the right side of it. Okay, this fortress was built by one of the Muslim leaders. His name is Salah ad-Din, and some Europeans like to call him Saladin. This man was a general of the Muslim army who came from Iraq, and he led the Muslim army against the Christian army. If you heard about crusades or crusaders. Richard Leonhard, the English king, led a very big army to fight the Muslims in order to get Jerusalem back Christianity. And then Salah ad-Din came to our country and constructed this citadel, or this fortress, in order to fortify Cairo in front of Richard. We had here a big battle, and then it was followed by many other battles by the Syrian coast. After that, they ended the war to sign a peace treaty between the Muslims and the Christians. What is so interesting about this citadel that they said that he was in such a hurry to finish his fortress, so he used the stones from the pyramids to build this citadel. So it was a habit at this time that Muslim leaders used to reuse the blocks of the Great Pyramid, especially the Great Pyramid, to build their mosques and their constructions. So this theory is not 100% accepted, because we have just at the left side over there, these hills there, or this mountain is what we call the Muqattam Hills, where the ancient Egyptians quarried stones for the Great Pyramid. So they used to cut the stones from here to build the Great Pyramid, so it's not logic for this leader to go all the way to Giza to transport the stones from the Great Pyramid, but some people said because it was already cut and formed blocks. We don't know anyway. We are now driving through the oldest streets of Cairo, and it's a very good opportunity to explore this part of the city. I asked the driver to take this long drive, by the way, to allow you to explore this part. Usually in the normal trips, we drive directly to the Egyptian Museum, taking the shortcut to the Egyptian Museum from the northern part of the city. But for you, I wanted you to explore this, because today in our program we have only the ancient Egyptian monuments, the museum and the pyramids. And Egypt and Cairo is very rich with other histories that many people, by the way, are not so interested in that. So most of our visitors, unfortunately, of course, they come to Egypt and they are only interested to see the monuments of the ancient Egyptians. Despite in Egypt we have lots of monuments for the Islamic civilization, like this. Okay, and the Coptic or the Christian civilization and the Roman. Of course, I cannot take you to Alexandria to see the Roman and the Greek monuments, but I can bring you here to see a part of what we call the Islamic or the Old Cairo, like the citadel and the streets and the mosques around. This citadel, after the war between Salah ad-Din and Richard, Salah ad-Din founded his own ruling dynasty in Cairo and in Egypt, and he became the king of Egypt. He founded his own capital, okay, and his own ruling dynasty. We call it the Ayyubid dynasty. And then he started to rule the country from walls, from inside the walls of the citadel. So it became like the Egyptian government seat. That's why all the other kings who followed Salah ad-Din, they constructed many palaces in the citadel itself. And the most remarkable addition was added to this citadel is the alabaster mosque of Muhammad Ali, the mosque you can see over there. It is a very remarkable mosque. Okay, it's beautiful mosque with silver shiny domes on the top. It's considered it is considered one of the most remarkable mosques we have all over Egypt. Okay, just let the driver take the turn, and if you look to the side, you will be able to see the mosque over there. Beautiful, remarkable mosque. Yes, between all the Egyptian mosques, when the Muslims came from the 7th century AD, we have in Cairo the oldest mosques. Okay, beautiful design, like Al-Azhar Mosque, Hussein Mosque, Sultan Hassan Rifai, Ibn Tulun Mosque. But this one is the most remarkable one. Why? Because of the design. Okay, according to Islam style, mosques should be plain from outside and inside. It is in Islam not forbidden but not very much accepted to fancy decorate the mosque from outside or inside. And the idea of this is not to attract the sight of the prayers while they are praying. They want them to fully 100% concentrate on their prayers. So if you enter any regular mosque inside Egypt, you will find exactly like this. Just plain blocks, plain rocks. No colors, no fancy colors, no fancy decoration, except for maybe verses from our Holy Book Quran around to decorate the mosque. Okay? But this one here is very remarkable, and it belongs to a very famous and important king in our history. His name is Muhammad Ali, but not the boxer, okay? Muhammad Ali was the king of Egypt, one of the most remarkable kings we ever had. We consider him as the founder of the modern Egyptian history, okay? Because this king was so strong, and he built the Egyptian life and system from zero. He built the education system, he built the agriculture system, okay, the irrigation system, the industrial system, and the army. Okay, he built the strongest army all over the Mediterranean in few years. And he built this mosque after the Blue Mosque. Anyone of you have been to Istanbul? The Blue Mosque in Istanbul of Sultan Ahmed? He brought the same architect. Let's say he was jealous from the Turkish king. You know, Turkey invaded Egypt from 1517. So Muhammad Ali was the king, but he was not independent. He was the king under the control of Turkey. Okay, so he brought the same architect and designed this mosque after the Blue Mosque of Sultan Ahmed in Istanbul. And then this mosque is different than any other mosque all over Egypt. First, with its fancy domes, number of domes. Usually the mosque receives one dome and one minaret. Okay, that's the original design of the mosque. This one has one central dome, and then four semi ones surrounding it, and four small ones in the corner, and four minarets. The big one, and they are the highest all over Egypt. We call it the Bensel minarets, around 94 meters high. Okay, and from inside, it is the most beautiful mosque. Some of my guests who went to Istanbul even said it is more beautiful than the one in Istanbul. It was very fancy decoration with golden water around the mosque, attracting your sight, and beautiful chandelier system. Anyway, this king, I don't want to tell you very long, boring information, okay, about this person, but he was the most important king in our history. His family ruled Egypt from 1805 till 1952. 1952 was the last member, King Farouk, and then our army acted against him as an army and military coup and then we announced Egypt after that 1954 as a republic. Okay, then this mosque stayed as a very remarkable mosque. Something very interesting, if you look, there is like a clock tower. I don't know if you can see it from here. No, you cannot see the clock tower. There is a clock tower there decorating the wall of the mosque. This clock tower is a gift from King Louis Philippe, the French king. Before this,